Welcome to Brandstorm, the podcast that talks to the people behind America's brands. I'm Dan Trzinski, president of Platypus Advertising and Design.
And I'm Nancy Christopher, PR director at Platypus. You know, these days, business is all about accountability. And in the advertising community, our guest today not only helps advertisers make smarter media buying decisions, but also determines if their strategies are actually working in real time. Please welcome Jenna Hauca, Vice President of Innovation and Technology with Generator Media and Analytics in New York. Hi, Jenna. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your company, how it got started, what it does, and who are some of the companies that you work with?
Sure thing. So as you mentioned, I'm with Generator Media and Analytics. We are a full-service media and analytics agency located in New York City, just steps from Grand Central. We were founded in 2002 by two principals. We're independently owned, so we're not part of any of the major holding companies. There's about 75 of us in total, spread across 3 floors in our building. As I mentioned, we're full service, so we execute on all parts of the media process for our clients, from planning and strategy and research through to execution, optimization, as well as the analytics behind it. Our clients really are spread across all major verticals. We work with 25 to 30 major brands, including the American Red Cross, NBC Universal, Curves, Jenny Craig. We're very strong in the EDU space, including NYU, Penn State, Texas A&M. We also have some CPG clients like Carmex and Water Wipes and Freshpet. So really all over the place.
Early on when I started, you had a calculator and a Nielsen book, and you talked about gross rating points and projected impressions and cost per thousand. And I remember early on, one of my old clients in the 1980s said to me once when I was doing a presentation, "Young man, I have never seen a rating point try on a pair of shoes." And that really stuck with me, anytime I talked about performance after that, because, it really comes down to, is something actually working, not just what you're buying. And you guys have launched a new business intelligence platform called Synapse. Can you tell us a little bit more about, the capabilities and your approach to actually reporting on media performance and analytics?
Sure. So I think it really goes back to the principles on which we were founded. Our primary founder, Greg, and president, he noticed that in the industry, there was a lot of media agencies not being held very accountable by their clients. A lot of reporting on, front-end media metrics like click-through rate and potentially being non-transparent in some of their buying practices. And we were really founded on the principle of providing transparency and accountability to all of the brands that we work with. And what that means to us is that we are held accountable for whatever marketing objective they may have. We try to track it down to what we're actually delivering for them. I don't think there's many CMOs or CEOs out there that are very interested in things like click-through rate and view-through rates. It's all about telling them at the end of the day, the bottom line, what did you spend and what were you able to drive with that investment? So whether we have clients with branding and awareness, or whether it's acquisition or direct response, app downloads, you name it, we work across all major objectives. We make sure that the analytics we provide our clients drill down to what's really important, and we're able to subsequently optimize on those metrics that we're measuring.
Now, you've been in measurement and collecting data for a long time. How does Synapse actually help improve what you do for your clients?
So Synapse is our new business intelligence offering. We rolled it out in early 2017. What Synapse allows our clients to do is not only, on a weekly basis or a daily basis in some cases, be sent an output in Excel that's non-flexible. It's not something they can query or really dig into any deeper. But we're actually providing them web-based dashboards that update in real time and allow the clients not only to look at their data and, dashboards custom to them, but also utilize filters like different dates and different, maybe channel breakdowns. So they're actually able to query some of the data and ask some of the questions that, they might have, or maybe they're being asked internally to provide deeper insight into the numbers themselves. So that's one component of it. The other, of course, is the way that we're utilizing technology to take our analytics from, like I said, a more static Excel-based approach to something that's automated. The more we can increase efficiencies internally in terms of how much time our staff is spending on executing and some of these documents, is the more time we can actually spend to analyze data, execute the optimizations, and be strategists and experts in media versus reporters.
Can you give us a real-life example of how that might work? If you can't mention the client's name, we totally understand that, but just kind of a step-by-step of how that relates to a specific campaign.
Sure thing. So I'll give you an example. I think Jenny Craig is a client that's been with us for about 5 years and very, very heavy on the analytics side. We run across all media channels for them, including TV and very heavy on digital. So as you can imagine, to pull data together for a client like that, you're working with 25, 30, 35 different sources. And you can imagine anyone who I know who's listening who's pulled that type of report and aggregated that for a client knows it's extremely time consuming, large margin for error. So what we've done is through working with various developers and coding that we've done, and as well as API feeds or application programming interfaces that basically pull from these data sources. We're pulling in all this data into one location, aggregating it into a uniform structure that's easy to basically pivot, if you will, into the different views that we need, and then subsequently the dashboards. One thing I think that's really powerful about this solution is we're not just looking at output from media platforms, so Google AdWords or Facebook or TV post logs, although those are all incorporated. We're also able to incorporate client data. So whether that's from CRM files, other efforts they may have, so that everything is truly in one place and basically a completely omniscient view of what's going on. From there, we're also able to include some third-party data. So to give you one example, for one of our CPG brands, there was a large storm recently and it really, really affected sales of the product. So by layering on weather data with sales by geographic region, we were able to actually find conclusions in this and understand some of the behavior and performance that we were seeing.
Wow, it sounds really technical. I mean, how do you make this easy for your clients to understand? I mean, is it easy for them to use?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing, and to be completely transparent, probably one of the bigger learning curves, is when you're providing a dashboard for your clients, it becomes a very collaborative process in making sure to identify, the relevant, not just metrics, but the presentation of the metrics and being able to tell stories through the data and various charts that you may be including. What may seem intuitive to one person or useful to one person isn't necessarily the same as, let's just say the finance team at the brand's end, or then the CMO, then the CEO. So it's sometimes about being extremely customizable in what we share with them and also flexible in making those updates. Some of the automation we've been able to achieve has allowed us to spend a lot more time on some of those components and giving the client what they actually want.
So if I'm understanding you right, with Synapse, you can customize the dashboard for the client. So you engage with the client and say, what's important to you, what KPIs are going to help you make decisions, and then you're able to build a dashboard that speaks to that so they're not looking at stuff that they don't care about.
That's correct. And our dashboards are never static. It's kind of an ongoing joke that we'll spend a ton of time coming up with this wonderful dashboard that everyone's in love with for a week. and then the following week, we've changed 2 of the charts from it. So yes, there's a huge element of flexibility in the dashboards we send to our clients.
You're VP of Innovation and Technology. How do you keep up with all that technology? How do you stay on top of things?
Well, it's definitely a labor of love, and it's a job that never ends. It's very exciting, though. I definitely compare it to trying to be a surfer and ride this wave. But every single day, there's multiple times a day, there's new innovations that are happening. Some of our biggest technology partners and players in the space are doing something new. There's different beta tests. I'll be quite honest, it's extremely difficult to keep up, but it's important to invest time, whether it's going to conferences, engaging with other leaders in the space, as well as just reading the trades. It's constant, and it's definitely a team effort.
Can I ask what you did before Generator? What's your background?
So prior to Generator, I was actually a firefighter while simultaneously getting a neuroscience degree at Princeton. So very varied past, all over the place.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I see on your website that you also work with nonprofits, and you mentioned at the top of the show the American Red Cross. So in the wake of Hurricane Harvey down in Houston, can you take us through that time period and how what you're doing helps an organization like that?
Yeah. So today, it's the first day back in office after this disaster has really started to strike, but that doesn't mean that we haven't been at work on it all over the weekend. I think I've already been in about 4 meetings today on it. Every time that, this type of disaster happens, it's absolutely imperative for the Red Cross and their mission so that they're able to help support these people who are affected, that we're able to drive financial donations for them, basically like launching a mini media campaign basically within hours, which I'm sure you can attest to is
Sure.
pretty...
Absolutely crazy. You guys must be going bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So it becomes a huge fire drill. And basically the entire day for that team has been devoted to making sure that all of our media placement or all the relevant media placements to help support people looking to potentially donate or help in any way they can are live and driving through to the redcross.org to drive those donations. So paid search is a big one. You can imagine people out there going into Google and searching for support the Texas victims or donate to the Texas victims. And if we're not bidding on those keywords, which oftentimes we're not if they're as specific as, say, Hurricane Harvey, we need to get those keywords launched as soon as possible. And we also need to increase budget caps to make sure we're capturing all the demand. And then launching display placements, a social campaign. We do this all within hours to help support the Red Cross.
For the benefit of our audience, we are literally on the Monday after the hurricane weekend while we're recording this, just so people get some perspective that there wasn't a second hurricane, but I'm sure people at the Red Cross will be still looking for donations, and this will probably still be in the news by the time this episode airs.
Does what you do help kind of streamline things so that, you always hear that you donated money to an organization and you hope that it gets to them and it's being put to the right use that you want it to be, and sometimes we don't know where our money's going. We want to help. Does this make it a better process?
Yeah, I think the American Red Cross has built a reputation for themselves as a trusted organization to send this money to, through some of their efforts supporting, the last round of Texas floods to Nepal on an international level. It definitely feels rewarding at the end of the day to be able to help support their efforts.
Can you measure PR efforts, or is Synapse just for paid media?
Yeah, so actually for some of our clients, it's extremely important to measure some of the PR events that are going on. That's something that we've implemented is basically a tracker of different events that have either happened in PR, or we do the same thing for CPG-based clients where maybe they've had promotions in various states or various locations or dates. By keeping a tracker of that that's also ingested into our database, we're able to easier identify outliers and different things that may be affecting the data. So that's something we're very accustomed to.
Well, that's pretty good because, PR is one of those things that's kind of difficult for we as
people
professionals to measure.
Put a dollar value on,
right.
Correct.
And an accurate one.
Yep.
Right.
Can be very challenging.
Yes.
So when you're dealing with numbers and number crunching and analytics all day, I know some people love math and you sound like you're one of those people, but how do you keep it fun for your employees at Generator?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say the number one tip I'd have is don't make them do all of this labor-intensive work through Excel and wash, rinse, repeat every single week. Automation is key. It brings efficiency. It's definitely helped to raise morale a ton. But I think it's just all about challenging how we're looking at the data, right? If you're going to put together the exact same charts and the exact same presentation every week, it gets dull. Here, overseeing the analytics team, one of the biggest things I try to push is that every week we're looking at it a slightly different way, and we're trying to find a way of looking at it that we haven't before. And every week needs an ad hoc analysis that maybe didn't exist the week prior. I think when you are challenging yourselves and challenging the team to look at things in that way, it keeps it interesting and it keeps people engaged. We're really fortunate as a company to have really great employees who are passionate about their job. There's a lot of people here that if they're not feeling like they're learning something and they're not feeling like every day is a new adventure, they're not going to be content with that. And I think that's the type of people we like to have in a culture like ours.
But I also noticed on your website that you kind of bring in some fun things for you all to do, like massages, different things, which is... Dan, have you thought of that?
No, Nancy, no.
Yeah,
but you have a fun environment. I've been to your offices, and you have a fun environment. There's like a sports bar kind of thing on one floor, and so anybody that is in New York that has the opportunity to get there, that's still there, correct?
Yeah, it is. I was going to say, as fortunate as we are with our employee quality and how, great the culture is here, I'd say we're equally, if not more, spoiled with, the leadership and the way they've invested to make the agency the place that it is. Like, as you're mentioning, on one of our floors, one of the 3 floors, about half of it is dedicated to this huge communal space, fully stocked bar. We have a catered lunch every Thursday. We have client meetings down there. We bring in massages pretty frequently. There's just a lot of really good benefits, and it's nice to work for a company where the ownership, genuinely really cares about the people who work for them.
And I also think that's got to be important. I mean, you can't just look at numbers all day long, and you have to have some way to release.
Oh, yeah, you got to keep it light sometimes.
Absolutely.
So, Jenna, if someone is listening today and is interested in learning more about how Generator can help their business, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, I would recommend going to our website at generatormedia.com. On the Contact Us page, you'll find a form to submit that will go directly to our Director of New Business, and we'll be able to get in touch, and we'd be very excited to hear from you. Alternatively, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to lend some advice or chat through any of the stuff we talked about today.
Well, that's great. We'll have the links to all of that in our show notes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, obviously, a lot's changed for the better in the 30 years that we've been in the advertising industry here at Platypus. Jenna, thank you so much for joining us today. And Synapse sounds like an absolutely incredible tool that you have working for you.
Boy, it really does.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. And thanks for having me.
And to our listeners, if you like what you've heard today, please don't forget to share, review, and subscribe to Brandstorm. This is Dan Trzinski along with Nancy Christopher at Platypus Advertising and Design, an awesome company that works with a variety of regional, national, and even global brands on a daily basis. We hope you've learned a little bit today, and we hope you join us next week for another episode of Brandstorm.